It says a ball is tossed upward from an initial velocity of 48 feet per second from a height of 118 feet. The height of the ball t seconds after it's tossed is given by f of t is negative 16t squared plus 102.4 t plus 15. That's where I found out that the numbers in the problem, the formula is correct. So we're going to deal with just the formula, even though to me it doesn't make much sense. Now, negative 16 we said is always there because that is the acceleration or deceleration due to gravity. Now, when it says the initial velocity is 48, this should have been a 48, but if this formula is correct, this is no longer a 48. This is 102.4 feet per second. From a height of, it's not 118 feet because this is how high it starts off at. It's 15. So the problem tells me what the numbers are, or should have been. But this was a cut and paste from a previous problem, so that's why it screwed up. So now we kind of know what the numbers really are. This says, if I look at the picture, the ball starts out 15 feet above the ground. And then you've got this person or something tossing the ball, literally putting some momentum behind it. And there's the ground. So that's the picture. Well, the units, we have two variables. We have t, and then we have f of t. That's really my y value. T is time, and it says feet per second, so the time is in seconds. So you don't want to forget your units. And then feet per second says the height is in feet. So we know what our units are. So if I say how high after 5 seconds, you have a value for t, that means you're finding the y value. So you're putting in x and getting out y. So it says how high, so I want to find the height. That's really the y value. Is the ball after 1 second? This tells me that t is 1. So what I'm looking for is f of 1, which is negative 16 times 1 squared plus 102.4 times 1 plus 15, which is negative 16 plus 102.4 plus 15, and now I need my handy dandy calculator. So it's negative 16 plus 102.4 plus 15, which is that right? 101.4 101.4 what? Feet. So it's 101.4 feet after 1 second. And then it says, when will the ball be 20 feet above the ground? So when means time. So I'm looking for a t value. Will the ball be 20 feet? That's height. Equals 20. That's my y value. So I'm going to take negative 16 t squared plus 102.4 t plus 15 set that equal to 20. Now this is a quadratic, so you want everything on the same side, 0 on the other. So negative 16 t squared plus 102.4 t minus 5 equals 0. So what I'm really finding, if this is 15, 20 is about right there. And you're going to see I'm going to have two answers. I'm going to have one on the way up and one on the way down. If I were to say at 10 feet, 10 feet might be here. I would just have 10 on the way down. But we want 20 feet. And of course this doesn't factor, so I'm going to have to use the quadratic formula. So use the quadratic formula. So that t equals minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. I don't really have to care what the numbers are because the quadratic formula is going to handle it all for me. So minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2 times a. So t is minus 102.4 plus or minus the square root of something all over negative 32. And again, my handy dandy little calculator. B, which is 102.4 squared. I get into a habit of putting it in parentheses because if a b is negative, it becomes out to be a positive. Minus 4 times a, which is negative 16, times c, which is negative 5. And it's 101.65.76. 101.65.76. So it's negative 102.4 plus or minus the square root of that thing. Oops. The square root of 101.65.76, which is 100.8. all over negative 32. So that t is minus 102.4 plus 100.8 over negative 32. T is negative 102.4 minus 100.8 over negative 32. So negative 102.4 plus 100.8 is negative 1.6 over negative 32. So divide negative 32 is 0.05 seconds. That's the on the way up. And if you think about it, we're talking about only 5 feet higher than where it was thrown from, because it got thrown for 15 feet. So it's only moved only 5 feet. So it's not going to take very long to advance 5 feet if you're throwing it at 102.4 feet per second. And then on the way down, this is negative 102.4 minus 100.8. Divide that by negative 32 is 6.35 seconds. So if I take a little version of that picture, here's 20 feet. This point here is 0.05 seconds. This point here is 6.35 seconds.